Cheers. So I came over today because I wanted to talk to you about your dating life.
Oh God. Okay.
And climate change. And,
Yeah.
you know, you are a young, beautiful 20-something. And, you know, I'm sure you've had your share of dating experiences out on these streets.
I have.
While also being an incredible climate advocate. And so I wanted to know a little bit more about, you know, how has it been? How's it been for you?
Oh my God, Christy. It's been a journey, shall we say?
A journey?
It's been a journey.
Okay.
It's been a journey. It's been interesting. It's definitely been interesting. I don't really half-ass anything, so I kind of I go big or go home. That's kind of what I do, and so it's been a lot of learning and passion and funny experiences, and I gotta say it's been sort of disheartening. the sample that exists in New York City.
We've all been there.
We've all been there. So yeah, but like I remain excited. Like I somehow have not been like closed off. Like I'm still just like open. Like you know, I'm still here, still excited.
So are you like straight up when you go on dates with people and you're like, this is who I am, like you lay out your climate advocacy? Or do you wait? Do you test the waters?
I definitely do not, because you can't get very far without, like, I mean, if somebody says, what do you do? Or like, what are you interested in? I was like, you know, I have a microplastics research background. I communicate about, you know, like, and then they, you know, sometimes we just talk the entire time about, because people want to know if they're not like, if the guy is not in climate, then they're like, well, what are you talking about? And then it's great to get people.
So you like that? You like it, but you don't know. You like to teach a little.
I like to teach a little, but I don't like to be the only one who's like in that frame of mind. So,
or to be mansplained.
So I love like someone who's present and will like presence is key, and like curiosity and being interested. But I also don't want to be the one who is sort of the only knowledgeable person on this issue necessarily.
So it's like important to you to like date someone who's like kind of in this space already.
I would say, although like historically I have not, and so here I am being like, okay, I think that would be important. Yeah.
Have there been like red flags on like recent dates or involvements with people who maybe weren't really climate people? Like what did that look like?
That's a great question. You know. Yes, I didn't know there were red flags, and that's the thing that's kind of like, it's hard to parse out who's really in climate, like who's really thinking about this, because like, okay, my ex-boyfriend, first date we went on, he started telling me about degrowth, and he was like, I'm really interested in degrowth. I was like, oh my God, like, he's like owns a company, he like produces a product, but he's interested in degrowth. Like, this is so hot. It was just, you know, look, you can be interested in degrowth and then still want to, I'll just say, it turned out that, you know, it was like, not, anyway, it's hard to run a company. It's really hard to run a company, so I understand why in this economic situation, it's near impossible to like actually implement degrowth principles, but I would say that was like, you know, if you're like really feeling it, say it. If you're not all in, don't say it. I will say that's nothing compared to one experience I had. I dated this guy, and he did not like let on somehow in like 3 entire months, 4 months, that his whole family was like Trump supporters. Like I didn't know. It was crazy. And he would like ask me about sea level rise. I was like, oh, he's just so curious. Like he just wants to know. And then come to learn, like he doesn't really believe.
You were dating a climate
by accident. I literally was fooled. Like man, that was traumatic. Yeah. So.
Fascinating.
Yes.
So there wasn't like, so the signs were like, he kind of asked you some questions.
I mean, I was so hopeful. I was like, oh, okay, he like wants to learn, because he was sneaky. And okay, I don't mean to like, he obviously wasn't trying to be sneaky, but he was like like he was like, okay, so if somebody is a climate denier and they want to learn about sea level rise, what's the argument against and for? And so I was like, oh, okay, he wants to be prepared when he talks to climate deniers. Hey, maybe he did. Maybe he realized he wanted to talk to climate deniers. Great, wonderful. He has that information if he needs it. But he literally, like, at least his family was like full like anti-vax Trump people.
I feel like climate denier, like, I don't know, there's a lot of categories when it comes to romance that I think I can find middle ground on, like, you know, our social levels or maybe our hobbies, but like critical understanding of science, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's a hard pass for me.
It's a hard pass. And then there's like everything in between. Obviously, I don't want to villainize any of these people. Well, I mean,
right, because it's context, right? It's context.
It's
like,
context.
But it doesn't mean you're going to have to hop in bed with them.
Exactly.
You can look at them, you can admire them, but it doesn't mean they're going to get anywhere near all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think there's like a million sort of gray areas, and as long as, I mean, it's just like, we have to understand and agree upon like the science, and be thinking about climate like as the, like, you wake up and like there's a million issues that are all interconnected, but like we have to be thinking about climate.
I mean, it is a value set, right? Like if you're talking about like buying a home together, I mean, who are buying homes? But you know what I mean? But like, you know, if you're gonna try to like build a life together, or like if you want children, you know, people ask these questions because they've been embedded in our culture and our society, but like, why not climate or environment into this, right? It's like, and it's interesting because I've had family members who said they didn't really necessarily like wake up and truly care about these things until they had a kid. But it's like, I don't know, and then it's like if your partner's not on the same level as you, then you know that could be really challenging. And I mean, I think like when it comes to dating, like it can feel a little nerve-wracking to maybe push out that you're an environmentalist sometimes because people already have some assumptions.
Oh my God.
And again, that might weed people out, right? Because if they're judgmental and they're already thinking really negative things about that association, that might not be someone you want to be with because they're closed-minded, right? I think, you know, if we're going to expand the definition of an environmentalist, especially in our dating lives, that also means creating open dialogue. So it's that difficult balance between, you now know that like maybe that's a core value, but in general that also means like you're dating within a bubble, which, you know, aren't we all dating in bubbles? It's an interesting question, but I mean, have you met people that are more like environmentally leaning and then you're like, oh, this is a better dating experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really, yes, like here's something that I've talked about a little bit, like on my podcast, Supersede, shout out.
I was on it.
Christy was on it, listened to our episode, she was incredible, and it was a really fun conversation. But like, this idea that to me, as someone who is like in climate, somebody who is also actively living and working through the values of let us preserve the human species, which is, in my view, right, like, it's going to sound redundant because we all know this, but, you know, folks who are like continuously learning about climate are learning that we're not saving Earth, we're saving our species. And so people who take actionable steps or are like intending with every fiber of their being to help other human beings get through and persist and sustain, that is, to me, the most fundamental definition of, if we take the word sexy, it's literally like we're trying to procreate. We're just trying to keep ourselves alive. That's sexy. So for me, like somebody who's doing that work, who's interested in environmental justice, social justice, and is trying to like uplift others and work in climate, that is like the hottest thing, because you're trying to have everybody be able to like live a good life.
Wow. I love that a lot. And you know, if you're gonna list off some quick qualities of green flags in someone when it comes to your environmental values, what would they be?
Okay. I already said this: presence, kindness, right? That's like level 0. I would say like someone who again has a really like deep-rooted sense of humor, like a silliness about them. We love, so cute. And I think someone who also like I find ambition really attractive. Like I find sort of conviction. Like I would say like I think that a very commonly used word that people say that they're attracted to is the quality of confidence. I, of course, am attracted to confidence, but I think that beyond that, like there's sort of a deeper level, which is that you are somebody who goes about the world and goes about your life with conviction. You're in touch with your parts of yourself that you're not crazy about. Like you're in touch with your insecurities. You're not afraid of your insecurities. You're not running from them. You're not projecting an image of someone who you think you are that's coming across as confidence, because that happens a lot. Yeah, you're just someone who's like has also I think I happen to be very like I can be very grounded. I can also be like up here and very spontaneous, and it's really nice to have a balance. So I'm not saying I'm looking for like myself, but I'm like somebody who is who shares the qualities of being able to be, as I said, present, kind, grounded, but also understands that we're on this ridiculous like planet, and like why not? We have to laugh about life. So
wow. I like that. I think
it's a lot.
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting question, right? Because, you know, even on like Love and Climate, we brought up like, oh, is it important to you to like date someone who like only shops vintage or only, you know, like cares about recycling or knows what that is, all these things, right? These are baseline things. But I think at the heart of it with what you're saying is like, people just need to have good character, and I think from good character, you will have maybe some more principles and the ability to have the capacity to explore things like environmental protection, because you're in a emotional and mental space to be able to create that, right? Because I think if you're someone who maybe grew up not having access to necessarily having that emotional capacity or that mental capacity, especially if you're living day to day, you know, paycheck to paycheck, etc. There's not as much space for that. So then you just kind of like fall into this pattern where then you just get sold what you see on social media or television, because you're so burnt out by the end of the day that it's like, when are you going to have time to like go outside and really connect in these ways? And I think it does impact the ways in which we engage in intimacy.
1000%.
Anyways, I know that was a little. I've had a lot of thoughts about this recently, where I've been like, you know, people are always complaining, like we have a loneliness pandemic, right? People are feeling lonelier than they've ever been. Why is that? It's because people are compartmentalizing each other and putting themselves in boxes. And even calling yourself an environmentalist in some ways is putting yourself in a box. When at the heart of it, it's community, it's connection, it's open-mindedness, it's solutions-oriented thinking, right? And I think that is, having those principles is how you actually be able to cultivate deeper relationships. You actually come up with solutions to create the change you want. And if you don't have those systems, you know, romance then gets diluted down into a product. That's what I gotta say.
And if you don't have those systems, then someone who's maybe able to be in climate, or someone like myself, can appear, I have to say, like there's an element here of we're both, like we have to both be like rooting for each other.
Exactly.
And I have found that like this concept of the idea of being able to really be in touch with one's own insecurities and understandings and like self-awareness is so critical for not being like intimidated by other people's successes. And I have experienced a lot of times where men are, and I'm not like, I don't want to make a generalization, but like I personally have experienced situations where guys are like, yeah, you go, and then I'm like, great, okay, he's on board, cool, we can like, you know, and instead they end up not actually being aware that they are secretly a little bit threatened, and that's a bummer because I don't want to threaten anybody. Like, we're just going through life trying to...
It's patriarchy.
And so this is another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, like, great relationship with mom, because, and like great relationship with like, and respect for women, because I think that really informs, like, your masculinity is not threatened by like sustainability, which is right. It's like a very nurturing. It's stereotypically very feminine and female thing, and so understanding how patriarchy is really, really deeply rooted in climate and our everyday, like, that's really important. It's being like on board.
It's the reminder of like the personal is political, and I think people try to feel like it's not. I think you know, you're sharing the most intimate parts of your life with someone, but yet you leave politics out of it, or you leave your worldviews on where this planet is going out of it. Like, I think you have to take a look at yourself when it comes to that.
Yes.
And again, it doesn't mean you have to solve everything, but like, I think it should be a consideration along with like other things that you like or don't like about a person, just like anything else. It's like, why does the life and the, you know, livability of our planet, you know, I don't know how that weighs to maybe like your favorite pasta dish, but we can have these conversations. We don't need to like leave them off the table, and I think that's the point, right? So, you know, you were talking about this degrowth thing and that like people can be all talk but no bite, right? What are your other icks related to like maybe sustainability or things you've seen in terms of habits where you see it and you're like, I gotta be honest with myself, like I'm just like, not for me.
This is a good question. I think I listed, I think it's really important, like lack of sort of authenticity, right? Like almost a performative, like idea of like, okay, what I do like is like people who are able to be open-minded and who can try certain things. Like, same degrowth guy went vegan for a month, like awesome, and like not used to that diet. So we love, and I didn't even ask him. So being able to be open-minded, but like on the flip side, sort of like a performative, like we're not here for like a short term, okay, yeah, totally, sure, I'll, you know, I don't know. Like, yeah, so I really value the idea of not like, of sticking to your own values, but only doing it if you are really interested and like deeply into it. Other red flags, I don't know. I mean,
could be general red flags.
Like, I'm thinking of many red flags, but I'm trying to find the ones that are specifically related to climate. But like, yeah, I think general would just be like, yeah, in some way, I think it just goes back to what I was saying, like performative in some regard. Like there's a you that's there, but you're sort of for some reason afraid, so you're sort of inhabiting another person's identity, or right, like the identity of somebody else. Like that's just, I can see it in 2 seconds, and
maybe when you put it out there that like you care about some things, like, you know, it could be a positive way where like maybe someone's reading up, wanting to learn more, and like that's great.
Exactly.
But then there's also people where it's like, just be honest. It's like, if you don't really like want to do those things, or like that's not really authentic to you, just be real about it, and then we can have a conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's for real. So I guess to wrap it up, I mean, you know, people are always talking about like, you know, like their ideal partner or what the qualities their ideal partner have, which I again think leads to dangerous thinking. And I don't know, I'm trying to make the connections between that and also like perfect environmentalism.
Yeah.
Like, to be a perfect environmentalism, you also think you're gonna have a perfect partner. There's some sort of Venn diagram.
There's totally a Venn diagram
between those things.
Yep.
On like their habits or like how they have to show up. Like, there's not really a gray area.
No.
And I think that's at the core of it, right? Like, if we want people to kind of join in environmental consciousness, we have to view it in the same way as like dating them in some ways, where like we are trying to put the best foot forward. We're not trying to come at them with judgments, with cancel culture, with
Yeah.
like totally throwing it down people's
Yeah.
throats. And of course, there are times where like that is necessary, but again, that's only going to attract one type of person.
Yes, exactly.
So that might be your type.
Right.
But like some people might want to attract some other types of people,
Yeah.
right? And so I don't know. I think if we viewed advocacy as dating, maybe we'd approach it in a different way on how we're actually trying to build relationships with people and organize people, because we're trying to get to know them as people, not just based on this like value set.
I'm so on board with this, Christy. It's
So,
really true,
yeah.
1000%. And I think like I think talking about these things, right? It's like it's a start. It's like, yeah, these are the qualities that I value, but I don't have like, right? This is why I haven't dated people in climate, because I'm so open-minded. I'm like, I'll date. Doesn't matter what you do, right? Like I don't have like a physical type really. Like I'm sort of just open, and I think that, as you're saying, like this ability to integrate all of these aspects of our lives and of the world is so important. So staying open-minded, but also sticking to it and not getting stuck. This is what we're doing. We're sticking to it. We're not getting stuck.
I love that.
Cringy. Sorry.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks. Okay, great. My gosh, that was great.
Wow.
All right.
That was lovely.
I'm a little.
It's fantastic.
Do you think that I was?